All right, welcome back to the Hoeflinger podcast. I'm here today with my dad, and today we're going to talk about our fitness journeys, about triathlon and Ironmans. My dad did one in 2017, and I'm doing one in 2 weeks from tomorrow when this episode comes out. So let's jump right into it. What?
Yeah. For me, I think the reason I did it was just to challenge myself. I was,
Yeah,
my son Brian had died several years earlier, and I wanted to try to do something different that I hadn't done before and challenge myself. So, I don't know how you did it, Kevin. I just started out by doing walking on a treadmill briskly. And then I went to running every day a little bit. And then I did a 5K, which is 3 miles,
yeah,
3.1 miles. And then I went to a 10K distance, which is like 6 miles. And then, gradually over months, I got a training plan. Then I decided to do a half marathon, and I did a half marathon, and that went well. And then I figured, God, if I'm almost up to marathon level, why don't I think about doing something like a triathlon? That sounds really neat. So then I try to, I kind of trained for a small triathlon, and a triathlon includes swimming, biking, and running. And I did the smallest one there was, and I thought it was pretty cool. And I said, yeah, I can do this. So then at that point, I went on to train for a full marathon, and that was part of my training for the Ironman was the full marathon. And I think for me, I just gradually worked my way up to things till I got to the point where I was ready to do the Ironman. But it was a full year of training,
yeah.
and
You committed like a full year before.
yeah, it was a full year. So I think what you have to do, what I did, is you have to just commit, right? I said when I decided if I did my half marathon, I decided that I'm going to do an Ironman. And then I just found the Ironman I wanted. I did Ironman Wisconsin, which is one of the more hillier ones. I wanted something challenging. And I know I could drive, had my bike on the back of the car and a bike rack. I knew I could drive there. And so I committed to it, signed up. They're expensive. It was like $1,000 to sign up for that race. And so I knew if I signed up, I was going to commit to doing it.
Yeah.
And that was half the challenge right
You
there.
also, I think you made a Facebook post when you first decided you were going to do it.
Yeah. Cause
didn't
you got to put some pressure on yourself. So I made a
So,
Facebook post saying that I'm going to do it. And then, if you don't follow through, it kind of makes you look
well,
stupid.
no, I think there's multiple different things, and I
Yeah.
think that's beyond just fitness, but just goals in life.
Yeah.
The more accountable, because you can make excuses with yourself. You make yourself accountable to the public or your friends, or you put in something like a money investment. It's much harder than to back out of it. You kind of force yourself. You
Yeah.
trick your mind in a little bit.
Right.
So I agree. I think the biggest thing is once you like. I'm pretty similar in that facet. Once I commit to something, I know I can do it if I just commit to it. You just have to get yourself to that point and remove the friction.
Yeah. And I understand, sometimes you say, well, anybody can do it. I understand some people have physical disabilities that they can't do something like that, or they can't run because of their hips or their back. And I understand that. But for a person who is healthy, who physically can do that, then I think the main objective is to commit to it, make the commitment, set aside time. And like when I was doing this, I was on, I was full-time neurosurgeon. I was on trauma call. We took trauma call every third day and every third week, and there was 3 of us in the group. And so no matter how busy I was or what time I got home, I could get home at 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. I went ahead and I did my whatever training I had to do that day. I did it. And on the weekends, if I had to do a long 8-hour ride, I would do it. But I think it's one of those things. For me, if I didn't get home and do it right away, I wasn't going to do it. The minute I got home, I had to do it, get out of the way, because I found if I waited around, you don't feel like doing it. So for me, that was a big part of it.
Definitely. Do you want to walk us through like a typical day? That'd be pretty. Well, so what did you? What was just like a typical day like when you were training? Like having multiple surgeries and then anything else. What did you? And I can talk about it later. What did you do? Did you plan out meals? Did you you have to have your nutrition
right?
And if you're gonna go try to do a couple hour run or a hard workout, you can't. So if you did surgery all day, how did you adjust for that? Or just what's a typical day like? I think that would be interesting.
Well, I think, just even before I say that, so I think, I think it's a smart idea if you're going to do something like that to get a trainer. And it wasn't a trainer who came over and trained me. It gave me a plan, gave me a nutritional plan, an exercise plan of what I needed to do every day. So I had it laid out. So in the winter, before you could start running outside, we did strength training. She'd have workouts for me every day, and I'd do my workouts, and I'd really try to get into that diet routine ahead of time before it got to the point where I was super busy and had to be doing all this training. So you have to set a foundation right off the bat and get some kind of, how does it work to build a habit? Almost have to get your habit set in place.
Yeah.
Um, but then, so an average day for me would be, say it's a day I was on call, I might have, 3 to 4 elective surgeries, sometimes 5 if they're smaller cases. And typically I'd operate all day till, 5 o'clock. And then if I was on call and there were consults afterwards, I have to go see the consult. So sometimes I wouldn't get home till late, 7 or 8 o'clock. And if it was an office day, usually office ran till 4:30 or 5 o'clock. And because I saw a lot of patients every day in office. And then same thing, if you're on call, you got to go back to the hospital and see people. So there's an occasional day where my trainer said, if you can't kill yourself and if you can't do it that day, you just skip it and pick up where you left off. But most days I would go home and whatever I had to do, I would do something just to make sure I did something.
Yeah.
Even if I couldn't do the full workout, something was better than nothing. Because the minute you stop doing things, I think it's more likely you're going to make up an excuse the next day to say, well, I don't want to.
I've heard it described as like a chain before. And like the longer a chain is, you put chains together. Each day you do it, it becomes stronger. It's harder to break. You skip one day, then that chain breaks. It's so much easier than to skip the second day.
It is. Yeah.
So even because I think sometimes, I'll do that. I'm like, I have to do a 3-hour run. My body doesn't feel like it. Then it's easy to just say, well, I'm not going to do anything. Well, it's much better to do 30 minutes than to do nothing, because it's not like people all think, who don't train as much or who haven't raced. It's not like you're going to magically do some crazy effort on race day, just pulls like a rabbit out of the hat. Yeah. It's everything you've put in training, all the hours you put in training, you're cashing those chips in on race day. Yeah. So you can't just magically do something that your body's not trained for.
And I think even I remember on race day, we're jumping ahead, I guess, but it's all about your mental thing too. Like I think I know the day that I was doing, I'm thinking, God, can I really do this? You start second guessing yourself days before the race. Like, did I train enough? All those days I didn't do as much as I was supposed to. Am I going to be ready? And that's where you have to get into a mental state of confidence that, you did the training, you did as much as you could, you're ready. And because it can really tear you down. And you're going to have to watch out for that when you do yours, because even all this, he goes out now for 8 or 9 hours riding and running. But I guarantee you the days before you're going to wonder, am I going to be able to do this? Did I do enough training? You just start second guessing yourself and you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, my thing's always been, I was talking to Renee about this, but I've always felt like
Renee's the trainer. I used her and then Kevin's using
her. I've always felt that I can do, like when I did my 50-mile race, it's weird. Like after the fact, you're like, it's pretty cool that you've done it. But like before it, I was kind of injured, like leading up to it. I never felt that I couldn't do it. I always know I can just keep going forward. Then it just comes down to time sometimes. But I think when you've done hard things, like doing a marathon before, doing a half Ironman, I just know I can keep going, but then it becomes like you always want to push yourself and get a certain time. The biggest thing I always think about is, and I try not to think about it, is I just hope that I don't get a flat tire on my bike. That would be like the main, that's like the main hope I hope doesn't happen.
My chain came off.
Yeah.
It took me a while to fix it. People really don't stop to help you because everybody's worried about their own racing time. Yeah. So no one helped me. But thank God I could get it back on, because that would have been the end of that. And that was early on.
Well, and I think to me, if something like that comes up, where I was saying, if it's you even had you had a really hot race day, didn't you?
Oh yeah. So my half Ironman, I did a half Ironman 3 months prior. It was in Madison, Wisconsin. It was in the mid to upper 90s that day.
Yeah, and the humidity was
I think 60% of the field didn't show up or didn't finish that day. Yeah. That race, and that's incredible. 60% of people didn't show up.
And so if you had this crazy idea, not crazy. If you had an idea in your head, like I need to get this time, or I'm going to be pissed off. Yeah. You have to throw things like that out the door. Or even if you DNF for it, your bike gets messed up. You can't worry about that stuff. It's highly disappointing, but you can't control the weather.
And it's really just about finishing. You have to have a mindset. I just need to finish, because this stuff about trying to drive yourself crazy about getting a certain time, it will drive you crazy.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the longer distance stuff, like ultra marathons and people even up to the marathon, they obsess over times and they'll break it into mile times and all this. When everyone's different, unless you're a world-class athlete or you're an athlete who's doing something very specific, it's so much more important to create a lifestyle of being healthy and going to push yourself mentally on race day and physically. Just do what you can, not
Yeah.
obsess. So there is no time. Who cares
And there's
about?
always going to be a time. I think there's always going to be a time. Like I remember I did my first marathon. It was a Disney marathon. And you always hear about this wall, like they say mile 20. So marathon is 26 miles. And I always heard about this wall around mile 20 or 22 or 23. You hit this wall where you feel like you can't even finish.
Yeah.
And boy, was it true. I got to mile like 23 or 24. And it's like all your glucose or your energy, glycogen is completely gone in your body. And it just feels like you can't move your legs. And I mean, I came
Yeah.
so close to just stopping and quitting. And a lot of people you could see did. But that thing is true. And just like everything, I experienced that in my Ironman. It was, I had done my 2.5 mile swim. Then I did my 112 miles of biking. I was like on mile 24 of my marathon. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't do it. I mean, I can't do it. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
My body won't move. But somehow you got to just dig down, and that just like you find your second win. And then some of my best miles were my last 2 miles because I just found this inner
Yeah.
strength,
No, I think, yeah, we're capable of so much more than we know. You don't feel like it a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I mean, I always think about it as it's just one day and it's just one like race. So if you're doing that, just get through the pain, get through the annoyance of it right there. And then I'm always happy I didn't. Like
Right.
I just set a marathon PR this past spring, but I just kept telling myself, don't, like, I kind of hit, my legs were getting really heavy, like around mile 15. It was weird. I was not having the best race, but I just wasn't going to stop. I just kept going. And then you keep going. You're just like one more mile.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're at the end and you're super happy. It's done. You feel a great sense of accomplishment and knowing you can do hard things. What I like about training and other stuff, it makes other things in life not as tough when you know I can go out and do this. I can go out and accomplish this race. It makes some other things you go through not seem as stressful in my
It
mind.
is true too, because I did the exact same thing. When you think about everything in total and you think of the end, it's overwhelming. It's like me being in surgery all day, and I got a surgeon, I have 5 consults. Everything's so daunting. But if you break it down to like, okay, I just need to go another mile. I need to make it to this stop sign. You set little goals. You make that goal, and then it keeps you going. Instead of thinking,
I think micro goals are critically important because I do that all the time. I'm like, if I can just get to like here, if I can just get to 25%, if I can just get to 50, and I'll do that even from anywhere from a 6 mile to a 30-mile run or a 50-mile run. You can't think about the end because it's too abstract. Like, how are you going to think about when you did the Ironman? You're out there for like 14 hours. How are you, if you sit there and think about the ends, you're doomed.
No, I think it's too
daunting. I remember when I'm doing the swims of triathlons, I'm literally only focused on like, I can't, it's going to be awesome once I get out of this water. So I'm doing that, or I'll repeat little mantras to myself all the time when I'm biking or running or swimming. I'm trying to think. So like, I believe in me. I know just keep going, continuous forward progress, just little things I repeat to myself constantly. Because you can't, and also during triathlons, you don't have any headphones, which like I usually do train with headphones. So it's just you and your thoughts. And I know some people always do stuff without, but I listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and music all the time when I train. So it's way different during a race. I'm you're just in your own head. And if you don't repeat positive things, you're going to let negative things creep in, which are terrible.
And I think, just exercise in general, but, triathlons and Ironmans, I mean, obviously it's a way to get really healthy, eat healthy, but also it builds mental toughness in you. I mean, it helps you for the rest of your life because it helps you in other aspects of life when times get tough. I mean, you become mentally tough and you learn what you can endure. And I think it has so many effects on not your personality, but, how strong you are as a person. I mean, really, it increases your strength as a person.
Well, I think exercise is like one of the number one most important things of where it has bleed over effects. It has. So if you start exercising, you're just naturally inclined to eat healthier, make better decisions because, and all these other positive things. If you create a habit a habit out of exercise, you do that every day, you feel better, you have more energy, you'll do other things.
Right.
I don't know. You sleep better, I think. All these other things. I know fall out of not exercising as regularly, you feel a little like more sluggish. So
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing, and I think why to keep doing it. I think why people do that.
Yeah. Because
Um,
definitely once you stop doing something, like I thought after my Ironman, okay, I'm this really conditioned person. I'm never going to get back to where I was before. But gradually, if you don't keep it up, you just stop, you start doing less and less. And that's that much harder to get back into it.
yeah.
And so I just did, Kevin and I did a Olympic triathlon, which is, just a smaller one. But it took me a lot of training to get back to that level because I let myself go, got back into work, got back into life, stopped exercising, and then it's like recreating the wheel again, which is fine. But I mean, it is true. If you stop just a little
Oh,
while, it's so hard to get back into. I mean,
well, after my 50-mile run, I remember that then COVID hit, and then I kind of was on and off, and I kept slowing down on training. I was lifting more. Then when I got back into running, you have to redo everything again. You've lost it. Just like how
yeah,
it's not hard at all once you've done all that training to go out for a 3-mile run. It's even for me just mentally that you're not in the zone anymore. It feels like if you've watched TV or like sat on your phone, going out for a 30-minute run or a 40-minute,
seems like
it
forever.
seems like forever. But then I'm like, how did I run for 10 and a half hours straight? Like, what
Right.
was I? So I think that's the biggest thing for me is once I can get in that zone again of
Yeah.
getting through workouts and
You know,
everything.
what's interesting too is why can you sit on the couch and watch TV and it goes by half an hour goes by instantaneously,
I,
or you're on your phone. But if you're exercising or running, it's like you can't. You're just counting the seconds and minutes till
uh,
that half an hour is over. It's really
well, or if
our
you're doing
brains must do something to us,
or
man.
if you're doing something. I remember when I would sit in class in like high school and college. If you're in a class, you're bored, or if you're in a boring lecture, oh my god, it feels
Right.
like forever. And then an
Yeah.
hour can go by where you're watching a movie or like hanging out with friends
Yeah.
in the snap of an instant. So it's funny how our minds work like that. I think if you want to prolong your life, you sit there and you just do hard things all the time. Where if you
Yeah.
you want the time to
Go
go.
slower.
What's it feel like when you do surgery, dude? Does it feel like since you're so
Goes fast.
trained, it goes
Yeah,
fast?
because you're so focused. Like in surgery, you're so focused that just, I mean, before you know it, it's over. It can be a hour surgery or a 5 hour surgery. I mean, um, it's just when you're focused and you're intense on
Do you ever
something.
hear of like people talk about flow states? You know
Yeah,
that.
I know flow state is where you're much more creative and you're focused and
Well,
right, or
also,
you're
but
more
also when people
efficient. You know what I'm saying?
exercise, like if you have to be so, there's some people who like are like climber, like rock climbers and stuff. There's this one, you have to be so focused on the task at hand that everything else melts
Right.
away. Or like people in martial arts or,
Yeah.
different things. Or this guy who did a solo expedition across Antarctica. You have to be so locked into what you're doing. Everything else kind of blurs away. Do you think
That's
ever?
exactly what it's like. Because I mean, you can have like accidentally a nurse will knock something over, and if I wasn't in surgery and it happened, I would go like this, But when I'm in surgery, I can be right over a nerve of the brain, and they can drop something loud, and I don't flinch because you're so focused on what you're doing. All the other stuff on the outside world that I don't pay attention to.
Yeah, because I
You
think
have to. I mean, I
I feel
have to
like
be
it's a
like
certain.
that.
I mean, that's like a crazy trait to be able to tap into because I feel like that helps you with other things in your life too. If you can tap it, like because it's hard to tap into that. It's
Yeah,
when you're like it's easier when you're forced to, like someone rock climbing without a guide rope. Like
yeah.
he would in this documentary I watched.
Well, you can't let your mind cannot
Yeah,
wander when
like
you're doing
or
that stuff.
there's this other documentary, the
Yeah,
free solo one with
yeah, that
Alex
guy.
Allen.
Yeah, yeah.
There's this other guy too, but that he died, but he would free soul all of this other stuff. But they talk about it where they're so focused on that because it's life or death. If they miss a rock hold, they're gonna
Right.
fall to their death. So I mean, if you miss someone's nerve,
Yeah.
you're gonna so you kind of are naturally go into that flow state, but it probably makes time just go by.
What's interesting too, the one documentary, the guy who climbed El Capitan, which is
Yeah,
in Yosemite, it's like a three
that's free.
thousand foot.
That's free
Yeah, so he
solo.
no ropes, and it's funny that the few days before that he practiced it, he would use ropes and he slipped and fell, and without the rope he would have died. But when he did it in actual without ropes, he was fine. But these guys say that they envision their death, like they have played their death over so many times in their mind that they're used to what they know exactly what will happen when they're going to die. And he says that takes away the fear because I already know how my death is going to happen.
Yeah, you have to if you.
It's kind of weird.
I mean, it's weird, but like you have to imagine if you're climbing and you're scared of dying, then you're probably gonna
Right.
make a
You're
mistake
going to make a
because
mistake. Yeah.
you're too nervous.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing to think about, but you have to kind of let go of fear
Yeah.
in order. I imagine people who do extreme sports have to have that
Yeah.
too. People who do like helicopter skiing or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So everyone's different. I imagine you have a little bit of that. You're more inclined to be towards it, but feel like it's got to be trained over time too, to an extent.
Well, and like with surgery, you can't. If I was in so much fear all the time, I couldn't do surgery because it would paralyze. You can't. So you have to be accepting in your mind that something can happen at any point in time, whether it's increased bleeding or a spinal leak or something, and you just have to accept that that can happen, and then you know how to get yourself out of it. But if you're so scared of that happening, you could never do surgery. I mean, it just takes away your
And
focus.
wouldn't you say that's why there's such like a medical school and then residency, especially for
To train
surgeons,
your mind, yeah,
is so you can just slowly you live and breathe that.
right.
It becomes and we were talking about this in the other episode, but you never have gone really that long with it. Before COVID. You have never gone over like a month without doing surgery
Oh, never. I mean, yeah.
because you're and then
That's
you
the
had
first time in my life that was that long that I went without doing surgery.
yeah
I've never gone, even between residency to attending. I never got was that long.
during COVID. There was like a 6 week on elective surgeries
Yeah.
stoppage, right?
Mhm.
So that was 2020. But I remember he was sitting at home, and I remember that was such a weird time for you because you're not used to that. And
No.
even the longest we've ever gone on vacation is like 12 days or
Yeah, I've never
two
gone on a
weeks.
2 week. Never gone on a 2 week vacation in my life.
So no, but that's another thing is you've never think about that you don't think about it like that, but that's a habit. So think if you did that with anything else,
Yeah.
if you've never gone that long without it,
Yeah.
you would be pretty strong in almost anything. So
And I don't like to go on vacation very long because the longer you're away, then when you come back, it's so unnerving. Like you're just out of sync. Like when I'm the busiest is when I'm the most comfortable because I'm just anything can come in. You're just ready to keep going, you know. And then you stop and you go on vacation for 10 days or 12 days, and you come back. It's like now you're out of that routine. You got to get back into it. It takes days to get back into that rhythm of things. At least for surgery, I'm sure it's all kind of things in life are like that.
well, no, it's
Um,
interesting just the overlap there. You don't really think about it with surgery or fitness. It's that consistency thing, getting in
yeah,
routines and habits all the way back probably when you're in college, getting in the habit of studying or getting in the habit. I think habits are so powerful and routines are so powerful
yeah,
because you can tap into that side of you, that like unconscious or subconscious
yeah,
side where you don't have to actively think about it and make it way harder. Because if you're consciously thinking about everything, it makes everything way harder to do.
right.
Um, so because I think too, probably if something happens, you don't have to consciously pause. If you get a brain bleed, you don't have to consciously pause and think for 10 minutes of like each step you need to do. You probably just go into action of what you would need to do to like stop. You know what I'm saying? Your knowledge base kicks in.
Yeah, it's repetition, right? If you've done something enough times, you don't have to think about it. You just know what to do. If you haven't done something many times, then you're stopping. You're not sure of yourself. You're guessing. So it is about doing things. You know, if you're a pilot, you know, you want to fly 10,000 hours because the guy who's only flown, 100 hours is probably very unsure of himself a little bit. A little nervous. Guy who's flown 10,000 hours, most anything can come up, and they probably have a good idea of how to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, that's
Um,
Malcolm Gladwell, and he's got a really good book called Outliers. He talks about the 10,000 hour rule, and he talks about all people who are experts usually have hit 10,000 hours and beyond. And I mean, obviously, you've got way beyond that.
yeah,
But I think it's not even 10,000 hours necessarily too, but it also just like 10,000 repetitions or just thousands, and just the more repetitions you can
yeah,
get on something, the more. If you sit there and snowboard 100 times, you're probably going to be better than someone
yeah.
who who's gone like twice, but for long times.
And I think you have to for me, I just finished a call week, 7 days of trauma call in a row, and I think I had 50 or 60 consults. At least some days it was 6 consults, some days it was 10 or 12. I think yesterday was 12 new consults, but um, it's one of those things that you as you do more and more of that, then as stuff comes in, you're not as bent out of shape. I mean, you
Yeah,
expect it, you get comfortable with it, and it's one of those things that I don't have to think too much about things, and you have to remember to take it one step at a time. Like when you can get overwhelmed so easy when all this life and death stuff comes in, it can just overwhelm you, and you just have to remember that you're one person. You take it one step at a time, and you can only do so much. You do what you can do. You can't put everyone else's burdens completely on you and say you're going to cure the world. You can only
yeah.
do what you can do. And I always have to remind myself of that because it can become so overwhelming. You can get, what is the word I'm looking for? Just really burn out quickly, so,
Yeah, not burnout, I
you
think.
know, You just have to be realistic
Well, you're
about
not doing
things.
anyone any just. You're not helping anything in the world if you burn yourself out so hard by doing all
Yeah.
these things. Then you're useless.
And I don't even think it's not the physical. I mean, I'm up a lot at night and stuff. It's not the physical, it's the mental. You get burned out mentally because if you put such a burden on yourself constantly, you can't, I mean, and that's why you spend a lot of time talking to the families to let them know what the injury is and let them help make the decision. It's not my decision. I mean, I can help guide you, but I have to let the families know as much as they can know about expectations, about outcome, about quality of life afterwards. And then ultimately the family can make a good decision. And it's not so much me making a decision just to take somebody to surgery because I want to. Um,
And there's just something, especially with something like a field like you're in, being a neurosurgeon, is you need to take, and anyone needs to, is you can't just always be. I think this is only in the last couple of decades people have started realizing this. You can't be go 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 all the time. We need sleep. We need
mhm,
rest. We need relaxation. You need like stuff that de-stresses you. So for you, it might be playing golf.
right.
For other people, it's something else, spending time with their kids or family, and you know what I'm saying. So I think the people who get and they're even unhappy is that they just do this stuff all the time. They're go 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 go. If you don't ever take periods of downtime, then it just doesn't lead to good things. It doesn't lead to a
Yeah.
well-rounded life. Um,
But for, I think today's topic was kind of like the triathlon thing, just exercise in general. But for anybody out there who was even thinking of start running or do, marathon
this is
maybe
your
as a goal,
sign. This is your sign.
this is your
Just
sign. Yeah.
start.
But you should do it because I tell you, you'll never regret it. And it's such a feeling of accomplishment when you've done something that you haven't done before and you accomplish it. Because what were the statistics, Kevin? Like we looked into like how many people actually ever do a marathon. It is some minuscule number, just a
I
marathon.
think it's less than 10%.
And then how many people ever do an Ironman? It's like 1% of the population, isn't it, or
Yeah,
less?
it's.
Maybe it's less than that. I mean,
I mean, the Ironman's only been around for like
the 80s. It was the 80s.
1980, I believe. So yeah,
Yeah.
43 years. But yeah, no. So that I mean, that's something I like to like is just do some things. Obviously, now it's a lot. There wasn't the opportunity to do organized races like this necessarily even like 100 years ago. Really, it's in the last like 100 years all this stuff's become a possibility. But it's so the atmosphere too. Everyone's very nice. Everyone's super encouraging. It is just start something and just try new things. And maybe you do it once and you don't like it,
Yeah.
but it's good to try new things in life, I think, and get outside your comfort zone. And you don't have to start big. That's the
Yeah.
craziest thing. I tell people just go outside, go walk for 10 minutes or go for like a quarter mile run. If you start somewhere and you keep moving forward, you're going to be 10 times farther than people who never started.
Yeah, I think that's the key, 100%. Because you just got to do it. Like you say, okay, I can't do this. I mean, I can't train for a year. Just go out and do something for a couple days and just do it. You just got to do it. And you'll find after 2 weeks of doing it, you'll start looking forward to it. I mean, you will. It's just getting
Yeah.
over those first few days to a week or two. You got to get over that period. But if you do it, I tell you, you're going to be glad
And
you're
that's
getting in
where
there.
I mean, this one comes
You
up a
know?
lot. So like I'm train, I have this Ironman in 2 weeks. So like for example, the other weekend I did like a mile and a half swim on a Friday. Uh, I ran 3 hours on Saturday, and then on Sunday I biked like 5.5 hours and ran 30 minutes after, which is a brick workout. But people who when I'm training will say, "Well, you just have so much motivation. I wish I could have as much motivation with you." And my biggest thing is, and I think other people would agree, is I don't think it's motivation. I think it's discipline. Because I
Mhm.
don't I don't want to. I don't you feel motivated when you watch a YouTube video and you're motivated for 2 minutes. It's very short term.
Right.
Discipline has very long term results. I'll know I'll have a week planned out and I know I have to do this no matter what.
Right.
And if you have the discipline to get your shoes on, get yourself out there, it's so much easier to keep going. So I think discipline, if you can just be disciplined for a week and make yourself do something healthier, uh, or try to start a habit and just stick with
Yeah.
it, giving yourself a week or two at a minimum, you have such a higher chance of continuing it and then finding
Yeah.
something
I
sustainable.
mean, just try it. Just do it. Just challenge yourself just for a week. Try to walk every day. Say, I'm going to walk a half an hour every day, no matter what, and just try it. I guarantee at the end of that week, you'll be on the track to not giving it up. You'll say, this is pretty easy, and you'll start increasing it. You'll probably go longer. I mean, and think how much better that is for you than sitting on the couch for half an hour. I mean,
And
time flies on the couch, and you eat snacks and stuff. Just try walking. I mean, by yourself or get a friend and do it.
put in, yeah, walk with
Yeah,
a friend, talk to someone. If you want, put in the podcast or
yeah,
put in an audiobook or music. whatever you need to get started. Sometimes
Yeah.
just that's the hardest. I think that's
It
the
is the
hardest.
hardest,
Going for your
definitely.
first run is probably the hardest thing, or going for your first new
Yeah,
activity is probably
yeah.
the hardest thing to do. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it has tremendous impact on your life if you can. And I mean, it doesn't have to be running or this or that. Maybe you want to go to like a rock climbing gym, or you want to go start playing basketball, or find, you
Or
know,
bike, start biking or
don't get, you got to
swimming
get
or
outside your comfort zone. It's so
yeah,
easy to sit inside our comfort zones, do something differently, get out of that little like day to day and week to week doing the same old things, just coming home and doing the same exact thing you always do.
yeah.
And what was I going to say?
Well, I think you're just saying it because it's true. You definitely won't grow in life unless you get out of your comfort zone. If you always stay in your comfort zone 100%, you're never going to change. Nothing's ever going to be different about your life. And so you getting outside your comfort zone, trying new things is really how you grow as a person, I think. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
100%. And
absolutely. And the other thing is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but comparison is the thief of all joy. So when you are getting started, don't look at
yeah,
don't worry about your times. If you say you are going running, biking, or swimming, don't look up what an average time is. Don't even worry about your times. I
yeah,
would just go about how much time you spent doing the
right.
activity. Like try to go for a 15-minute walk or a 10-minute run, and just work. I would say for even like a couple months. Same if you started weightlifting, go at least a couple months before you even entertain the thought of looking
Yeah,
at times, because that's how you sit there and just say, oh, I'm not good at this, or people are
yeah.
better. Who cares unless you're trying to train to be an elite athlete or go to be a college athlete or something. Don't worry about your times, and don't worry about your all this other stuff. Just worry about the act of doing something.
And take the I can't out of your vocabulary because I think a lot of people say I could never do Ironman, I could never do a marathon, I could never do a 5K, I could never be a neurosurgeon. You got to take that out of your vocabulary. You can do a lot of those things, but you just set yourself up for failure by saying I can't.
Yeah.
Start saying I can. You can.
Well,
Again, unless you have a physical or or a medical condition that doesn't allow you to do that, I understand. But just for the average healthy person who's able to exercise, I mean, take I can't out. You can. You just need to do it. Like Kevin said, you got to just start
well,
being
that's
disciplined
a
with it.
massive mind. If you
Well, it is.
say
I mean,
no,
but it's true. I
if you can
mean,
say that about anything in life, how much more you would. It's easier to say it's to not try and say I just can't do that
right.
versus to try, and maybe you fail sometimes, but you're going to be a lot. I'd rather fail and be a lot further than to say, oh, I don't know, I never tried, and be all the way back here. Here's like another thing. If someone asked you 5 years ago about doing an Ironman, you probably would have thought before 5 years before you did
Right.
it, could I even do this? Because if you just sit there and look
Well,
at
because
an
you think of
Ironman.
Iron Man, that's like Iron Man. It's like how do people? These are like elite athletes. They're not. They're not elite
Yeah, but
athletes. They're
if
just
you look at something just right there, he was already had a good aerobic base build up, and then he trained for 12 months.
yeah.
It's impossible to see how much training will impact your body over 12 months. Like so, to go to build up to that, you don't just become something overnight. Just like an even farther extrapolation is becoming a neurosurgeon. You don't sit there and think about becoming a neurosurgeon 10 years later. You're sitting there in your maybe biology class in undergrad, and I need to just get through this class, pass this class to get to medical school. You break these long-term goals into the smallest possible tasks you can, and you execute on each one of those. And
But even beyond that, like when I was a neurosurgeon, you don't think I thought I can't be? How can I operate on somebody's brain? This is before I did this stuff. I mean, people think of brain surgeon like how do you operate on somebody's brain? That's how I thought, and I thought it would creep in my mind. There's no way I can do this. What am I doing? I'm crazy, And but that's about making a commitment and just getting outside your comfort zone. I said I'm going to try this, and if I fail, I fail. But but you probably won't because I mean I went through medical school and then residency is a training program. It's all set up to for success, right? You're set up for success. You have to have the discipline and put in the time, but it's all set up for success. And I think many things in life are set up for success as long as you're willing to take that chance and you're willing to be disciplined and put in the time. Don't you agree?
yeah, absolutely.
You
And
know?
the world's a lot more malleable than you think. That if you start doing stuff, it's crazy how the world will bend to your will almost. If you start, what can come of things if you just with such a simple habit of just exercising every day. Or there's a
Yeah.
famous speech of Navy SEAL, or I believe it was, or no, he was an admiral, I believe. He just making your bed every day. It's just
Yeah.
simple things where if you do something if you can start your day with a win, or
A success, right?
yeah, it just sets you up for success. And if you change, because you're shifting, basically you're shifting your mindset from someone who can't do something to who can do something. Um, and so yeah, I'm doing the Chattanooga Ironman in 2 weeks. I think it's the September 24th. It's that Sunday. But we'll definitely keep you updated on that. I'll post some stuff. And
Well,
um,
how's your training going? Like, what's it been like for you? Because now you're getting in the big. He went away the other day for 8 hours riding his bike, and it's I remember doing that. I can't hardly remember because it's all a blur now a little bit. But
I mean, the
what's it
first,
like? I mean,
because that was, I had done a half Ironman before. So the longest I'd ever ridden my bike was like 3 or 3.5 hours. And then like back to back to back weekends, I'm riding like 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and then like running after that to get used to coming off the bike. But yeah, it's just, it's so much different. But each time I do that, I feel a great sense of confidence. I feel super, I'm like, okay, if I can do this, I know it builds up that confidence. So I'm on race day, I'm not like, oh, can I even do this? And
what do you think the hardest part is right now that you're going through? Like, what's the hardest part of all this for
I've
you?
been, so I was trying to change my swim stroke, and
Oh,
the swim's going to be the shortest part. But for me, I've not swam nearly as much in my life, like in training, as I have run and bike. So the swimming to me, like it's downstream in Chattanooga, so that's nice. But I know for sure
downstream meaning he's kind of with the current
I'm
down
with
the
the
river.
current. But so I know I can for sure do it. But like in terms of time wise, and like that's my weakest discipline. So I always like to just get that part done with. So, and we'll see, because I was trying to change my breathing technique and stuff. So I'm still just trying to find my stroke. But I mean, the hardest part is too. I mean, that's technically hard, but I would say just your inner thighs and your back after riding on the bike
Right.
for a long time. That you just have to start once you're on there for 4 hours, you have to. I might be on the bike for 7, 8 hours. I don't know. Depends what the conditions are on the day. But man, that gets very tough.
Yeah, but it's like I remember. So I had Wisconsin's really hilly course. It's one of the more hilly courses of Ironman, and my biking took me 8 hours. I just, we're weight trained. I don't know how Kevin's been doing exactly, but there's no hills around here. I'm in Toledo, Ohio. So I didn't have any hills to really train on, just these little tiny hills that I go up and down a million times, but it's not the same as riding up big hills. So my ride took me 8 hours, which wasn't awesome, but my back was killing me. Cindy was there, my wife, when I got off the bike, and I told Cindy, my back hurts me so bad. I can't run a marathon. I just can't. And she really encouraged me. She said, "Come on, you did all this training. Don't give up." And I didn't. And I hurt really bad the first few miles, and then I got into it. But that's it's just all this all together. You're going to have these episodes in life, whether it's an Ironman or whatever, where you're going to say, I just can't do this, and you have to push through that. It's all about pushing through. And that was like the hardest part. But I'm telling you, God, when you finish it, you're so glad you pushed through and you didn't give up. I mean, there's just such a sense of accomplishment. And I got to ask Kevin, because doing an Ironman, one of the big things about finishing an Ironman is everybody gets that Ironman tattoo on their calf or somewhere on their body to show that you're an Ironman, right? I think the majority of people do that.
You don't have it.
I know, and I just never did it. I don't know. I just didn't. I just felt like I'm showing off by having it on. So I just want to. I don't like to try to be a show off and act like I'm. But anyways, I'm curious if Kevin's going to get one when he finishes it.
No,
You're not going to do it.
no. I think the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
props to everyone. I love people who when they have it.
Yeah, I'm not knocking it all. I just
it thinks to me. I always think that's a cool conversation. Start because I can go up and talk to them. I don't know. I don't. Maybe one day I will. For now, the only tattoo I have, if you can see the video, I have a tattoo for my brother. This is the only tattoo I have on my wrist. It's a blue heart on my wrist for anyone with an infinity sign. For my brother Brian, who died, who's listening. It's the only tattoo I have right now. To me, like it has to be super meaningful. Maybe one day I'll get stuff, but I don't know. I don't really like the look of the Iron Man tattoo.
And that cool, but I don't know. I don't have any tattoos on my body, so I just figure I'm not going to.
Because to me, it's got to look. I don't know. I like that. I like the meaning behind tattoos and the aesthetics. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll change that, but I just wouldn't. Because you have to have it too. If you're gonna get it, you want it to put it somewhere visible. And I wouldn't really. I don't know. I don't like the back of my calf or like ankle. I don't know. Just not for me. But
I mean, for me, I think it's just good enough. I know that I did it, and that's what matters. I mean, everything in life that you guys do, that everyone should do, it should matter mostly because you did it, and not that you're trying to show off for other people that you accomplished something. I think
that's something I think and that goes hand in hand with the time thing and everything else. Is at first when I would do stuff, I used to like post more about like the races I'm doing and stuff, and it feels good. People are commenting like, "That's amazing, you did
Yeah.
a marathon or this or that." But then after sometimes too, I would think like, would I do this if no one could see? So I would do races where I didn't tell anyone. I never posted about it, never
Yeah.
told anyone. Like I did the marathon last year that I never
Yeah.
posted anything about it. Probably most people who know me don't even know I did that. Cause you want to find that balance of like, you got to make sure you're doing it for yourself.
Right.
And so I wanted to make sure I could do stuff and not even if no one ever knew, or even if just only I know. Cause I think that's the
Yeah.
most important thing to me it's that lifestyle of being healthy and pushing yourself and testing out who you are, seeing who you are in these tough. We live in most of us we live in houses. We live in comfort.
Yeah.
It's not like we're hunting for our food and stuff like that. So introducing some hard aspects to your life is important in my mind.
And it's crazy how supportive people are. I mean, when you do your Ironman or marathon, all the people that come out
The
in the day and
atmosphere is
spend their
awesome.
day cheering you on, it's incredible. I mean, like you did all the training and stuff, but I mean, these people come out and spend their time cheering you on who don't even know you. It's
Yeah, all the
incredible. I mean, it's really
volunteers. I
amazing.
always try to make it a point when I'm doing it. I try to like thank every single volunteer I see, and
Yeah.
I love when there's like little kids on the sideline and they're so happy if you'll give them a high five. A lot of
Yeah.
people around me,
Yeah.
I love
Well, they
giving them.
treat you like rock stars. It's like, you're the rock star. You're out here cheering me on. I mean,
Yeah, no,
it's like,
I love that people with the
the
cowbells and
kids are
stuff,
awesome. Man.
the cowbells and everything. But yeah, that there's a fun atmosphere to it all, and
Yeah.
it's everyone. It's just about community and
Yeah.
being I don't know just
It's also about inspiring people and being inspired. I mean,
yeah
I think when you do something like this, it inspires the people who are watching, especially little kids. It inspires them for greatness, and then they inspire you because I mean, there they are treating you like a rock star when you don't even know them, and it's like it's very inspiring. It's like humbling that people come out to cheer you on um, for no reason.
yeah and
It's pretty cool.
I don't know. Crossing that finish line, it's very fun because there's so much positivity around in community around racing,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I think because it's just a lot of things once you like pass high school, it's you don't really play sports in a way like football, baseball, soccer, tennis. You don't play in that competitive sport atmosphere. So racing with like running and like triathlons and stuff, you still have that, but it's like it's competitive, and obviously people are going for times, but no one's like it's not me versus you. It's just me versus me, you versus you.
I got to tell you a
It's
funny story. When
connectedness.
I did the Ironman, I was coming down the elevator, and you take your bikes from your hotel room. And this guy had his bike, and his wife was with him, and he didn't seem like the best shape guy I've ever seen, but he's done a bunch of Ironmans, and he's got his little basket. I said, "What's in the basket?" He goes, "It's my lunch." And I said, "Your lunch?" I said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "Well, I'll just stop." He said, "I stop a few times and enjoy myself, and I have a nice lunch." And for him, it's the whole experience, right? He makes an experience out of it. He likes to do these because he has fun with it. He's not trying to make a time. He just wants to finish and enjoying the whole experience of doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's an atmosphere out there, right? When you're doing Ironman, it's a whole community
Yeah,
atmosphere. It's all about the Ironman experience, not just the runners or the volunteers, or it's everything all together. And
it's
so
fun. I
much
mean,
energy out there.
I think too.
And I think he liked the energy,
What I think about like when I run, because the biggest thing you have to do is you have to come up with your why to do things. And
Yeah.
like for me, like running and movement, I want to be in shape my entire life, and be very mobile when I'm older. It's why I do
Well, you
mobility
said you want to
work.
live to your 100. You said you're going to be the
Yeah,
first generation to live to 100.
well, no, there's people
Or
that live to
120, you
100,
said, okay.
but I think people who are older don't enjoy being older because they're not in good shape. They
Mhm.
can't move. So I want to always continue to enjoy life and be in great shape and like mobile and stuff. So I do a lot of mobility work too. Um, so that I think it's important, not just the short term doing stuff, but just that long term. Who it's your identity. I love when I travel to new places. Running allows me to explore. Like when we were
Mhm.
in Arizona, I
Yeah.
go out on the trails. Allows me to explore for a couple hours. When you do races and you go somewhere, it's a reason to go on vacation, like go explore a new area. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's not the same as vacation. You're doing stuff, but you're going to Chattanooga. That's something I wouldn't have done if I wasn't doing a race. So there's lots of different facets like that, but I love how that all intertwines, and I just want to be an active person, and kind of explore. Um,
And I think, maybe part of this podcast is really to maybe show people two real life examples, and maybe encourage you guys to just look into doing some things like this. It's a
Yeah. I tell people all the time. So if you say you don't have time, there's one thing. Obviously, there's reasons not to train if you're injured, if you have specific conditions
health
that you
conditions.
can't. So by no means are we saying anything like that. But for the people that all the time, people will say to me, "I don't have time," and I just use the example of my dad. He's a full time neurosurgeon and he trained for a full Ironman. So if you say you don't have time, like really look, just sit for a week and write down how you spend each hour of your day for a day, even or a week if you can. There's a lot of time you're just sitting there wasting on your phone or watching this or doing that. Obviously, different for every single person, but there's ways to find time. You make time. You can prioritize things, um, but just prioritize in some way of something that's healthy for you. Whether that's cooking a dinner, going for a run, going for a walk. Do so. It makes a big difference in your life. I think we're just
Yeah.
I think part of it is just discussing our life, being positive,
Yeah.
and the things that we know a little bit about. There's people who know much
Right.
more.
That's what I was to say. Because by no means are we sitting here trying to tell people how to do a triathlon or how to do this or that. Because obviously, there's people who do this for their careers or their living, and they could blow us away in all the stuff we're going over. I mean, in detail. But we're trying to give you a sense of what you can accomplish in life. I think, and things that can be healthy for you. And I think it's good conversation and how to be positive in life and have a positive. Let's get rid of the I can't and say I can, or I'd like to at least try.
Yeah,
Um,
a positive attitude makes a huge difference. You're gonna enjoy your life a lot more, and people around you
yeah.
are gonna enjoy you a lot more. You like someone
Yeah.
who's very upbeat and positive
Yeah.
and has that can do attitude versus someone who
Who's
makes
Debbie
excuses.
Downer?
Yeah, Debbie Downer makes
Yeah.
excuses about everything. But yeah, so we'll probably do another podcast in a couple weeks after I've done it. Maybe we'll do one in Chattanooga.
Yeah, we're
Eh,
gonna drive down. So my wife and I are going, and Kevin's girlfriend's gonna go, and we're gonna go spend 3 days, and um, it'll be fun.
yeah, no. So
I'm glad I'm not doing it right now, but
that'll be exciting, and yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes. But I was probably hopefully that'll be like a little. I remember writing, after races, I'll do journal entries sometimes, but doing a podcast would be cool. Just all those thoughts in your head that kind of disappear a little bit over years. It's harder to imagine a race again.
yeah.
Because the biggest thing I remember during my half Ironman in Wilmington, North Carolina, my mom was there with me. But I just remember the entire time just waiting to give my mom a hug at the end. Like I was very drained after,
Mhm.
because it's shorter, but you're exerting a lot more effort over a shorter period of time.
Well,
Like
I think in the shorter ones, you think you can. It's a shorter bike ride, a shorter run, so you think you can put more energy into it. The full Ironman, you have to pace yourself, but the
yeah,
shorter ones is like you think you can do these bursts because they're shorter, but
your
it,
heart
it, it
rate's
catches
jacked.
it catches up to you
Because I
definitely.
did the swim pretty fast. After my bike, I biked at like night, a little under 20 miles per hour for 3 hours. But then I had fallen behind on my nutrition big time. My run was slower than I thought it could be.
Well, I
But
remember from a marathon part of the Ironman, I stopped at every single stop that they had. Every mile, they would have a stop for either oranges or juice or water. And I made myself stop and eat a piece of
yeah,
banana or every single time. And I lost 20 seconds or 30 seconds, but I made sure I took
that's so
nutrition
worth
every
it.
mile and
Yeah,
and you know what? I didn't even have to go pee because you're sweating out so much stuff. I was drinking, but I didn't even have to,
yeah.
people worry about because let's get down to it, right? Some people worry about, what if I have to go to the bathroom, out there, and they do have porta potties, but Jesus, if you have to stop and go, I mean,
Yeah, just
but
never. I wouldn't worry about your time, but
you don't worry
also,
about
yeah,
that.
you
I mean,
usually a lot of times you don't have to go to the
you
bathroom.
think you will, but you don't. And
Depends.
yeah,
Um, and obviously you try to go to the bathroom before you start, but that's just something too. There's porta potties,
it's
and
always at the beginning because
and
it's your nerves at the beginning that really get you. And once you get into it, I think you just fall into a groove, and then you're not, the nerves go away, don't
well,
they?
again, and you fall back on your because it starts feeling like training.
Yeah.
That's why it's probably much harder if you've done a lot. You have a confidence because you've been there many times before, or if you've done a. That's why it's important, especially for your first one, to do a lot of training,
Hmm.
so you have that confidence knowing, okay, I can do this. Because no matter what, your race is going to be your farthest distance you've gone. You're not going to had a training day where you went 13 hours, or however long it takes you. It's very doubt. You're not going to because you would just break your body down too much in training. Um, but yeah, I think that's a wrap for today's episode. And as always, let us know what you guys think.
And if you have topics, try to shoot us some. How can they contact us for topics? The
Yeah,
topics you might want to podcast on. Why don't you let us know?
you can
Um,
any of the social medias commenting or messaging us. We look through them as always. I was trying to think. There's a couple good ones that have been some recurring themes about some questions. So I think we because I think what we want this podcast, started. We wanted to start and just do something that's unique to us. That's just around our life, which is grief with my brother dying, alcohol education, him being a neurosurgeon. We train a lot, diet. So we're just gonna keep following our curiosities, talking about stuff like that. People seem, I think, to relate to that in some ways. Just being open about conversations
yeah,
and other things, and we'll see where it takes us. But we're very open to talking about different things you think would be interesting for us to talk about. So
yeah.
just let us know.
I can't say we're experts on anything, but sometimes it's fun to talk about different topics. Just give a perspective, whatever you happen to think about it.
Yeah, and just pretty soon here, we're just trying to get some reps under our belt of just setting up the podcast. We want
Yeah,
to over time like kind of make it more and more professional in a way, so we can get better audio and video. But also, let us know if there's any guests you think we should try to get, or let us know, because I think that'd be a cool perspective of different people. Because my dad's a neurosurgeon, and then myself, of just asking people, in two different, picking people's brains in two different ways. So that more to come on that soon.
yeah.
But yeah, every Saturday, new episodes every Saturday morning. Um, so yeah, have a good day,
All
everyone.
right, stay positive.